If you've ever had an adjuster tell you that ridge and starter is included in the waste percentage for the roof, then this video is for you. I'm going to show you how to use our waste and starter calculator so you can show mathematically how you're going to be short on the field shingles if you actually use the math that they're asking you to use. So it shows mathematically why you need to add ridge and starter, and it correlates with what some of the roof measurement reports say on their reports. So let's go take a look at how to use the waste and starter calculator and how to put that into Xactimate. Let's take a look at this waste calculator that we have created here at Estimate Mastery. It is rudimentary, but it works quite well to get you where you need to go. So basically it's programmed that in a bundle of shingles, there is an average count of 27 shingles per bundle, that those shingles are 36 inches in length and they have a 5-inch reveal. All right. So that can be changed according to the specifications of whatever shingle you're using, but this is kind of a generic, numbers that we're using for this example. And then we're under the assumption that one bundle of shingles will cover 81 linear feet of starter and 33.75 linear feet of ridge. So what do we mean by that? Well, if we accept their premise that the waste is indeed included in their replacement count for the squares, okay, so if they gave us 15% waste on this hip style roof and they say, well, the ridge and starter is actually included in that waste, we need to come back and say, actually, no, this 15% waste is for the field shingle, meaning cutting in the valleys, the edges of the roof, the hips, all of that. That's what this waste is for. And then we need ridge and starter on top of that, or else we're going to be short on materials. So that's what this calculator is trying to convey to the adjuster, and will do so if you fill out all of these fields correctly. You can show mathematically why you're going to be short on your field shingles if you include the ridge and starter in this 15% waste. So that's what we are trying to show the adjuster mathematically, that we need to add ridge and starter to Xactimate estimate separately from the replacement waste percentage that they're giving us. So with this example, we have 36 inches in length for your shingle. That, if we take their premise that, the starter and ridge is included in the 15% waste, we're going to show them with this calculator how we're going to be short. So one bundle will cover 81 linear feet of starter using these calculations here, and 33.75 linear feet of ridge if we were to cut the 3-tab shingles and place them as the ridge. Most of us don't use 3-tab, we use laminate, so it's not even a great premise to begin with because we can't cut the laminate shingles for the ridge cap, but they still try to use this argument. So just take the premise of this is what would be the amount of waste needed to cover both the starter and the ridge and hip cap. So the total perimeter of property for this roof is 384 linear feet, and the total hip and ridge for this roof was 156 linear feet. So the original estimate had paid for the removal of 37.65 squares, the replacement of 43.33, which this calculator will show you is 15.09% waste, which is pretty good. That's great for a hip style roof. It would be sufficient for the field shingle waste. But when we add in what material that we're going to need for the hip, ridge, and the starter, we become short really fast. If we accept their premise that the ridge and starter is included in this waste, here's what's going to happen. The squares required just for the starter are 1.58 squares. The squares for ridge and hip cap are 1.54. So that's a total square percentage that we need of 3.12 squares. That's a lot of material. And they're saying that this is included in the waste, which is the difference between these two amounts right here. And that's what the calculator is going to show you. The adjuster, if you take 43.33, subtract 37.65, you're going to get 5.68 squares that they've given for an allowance for the waste on this particular roof. That's how we get to the 15% waste percentage here. We need 3.12 squares just for ridge and starter. And that's before we are allowing for cutting in the valleys, the hips, the edges of the roof, and all the other things that can happen that we need for the field shingle waste. This is what we have left after we remove the ridge and starter. And with this, we are only given a calculation waste of 6.8. So for the field shingle, which should start at 15%, we are now reduced down to 6% for our field shingle waste. So what do we do with all of this information? Well, we have a link down below where you can go and receive one of these ridge and starter calculators for you to play with on your own. And all you need to do is fill out the fields that are in yellow. So when you go and you register to get the calculator, I do want to make sure that you know you need to go to File here. This is going to be a Google Sheet that's going to pop up. Go to File and make a copy. You will not be able to use this version that you have access to until you make a copy. Then you can make edits. And as the user, there's 5 fields that you need to fill out, and they're all the fields in yellow. So how many shingles are in the bundle? What are the remove count from the original adjuster's estimate? What's the replacement that they're paying for? Then pull off of your measurement report what's the perimeter and what's the total hip and ridge, and the calculator will do the rest. Now, what do you do with this information once you've played around with the calculator, you've got it spitting out the right numbers for you here? What I would recommend is going ahead and pulling up your Xactimate. So I'm in a project, I'm in an estimate items screen here, and I've got my roof just as a sample. I was just playing around with this today. I would go ahead and build a note that says, here's the math. So I've already done that. I'm going to go into my note field here, double click. I'm going to pull up my notes with this rubber stamp tool because I've already saved the note. And I'm going to search for my waste statement here. Double click on that. We commonly use Eagle View. So the interesting thing about Eagle View, and there's other roof measurement reports that do say this, but I'm just using Eagle View as an example. It does say on the report, note that only the roof area is included in the waste calculations. Additional materials needed for ridge, hip, valley, and starter are not included in the waste calculation. So then I would provide the Eagle Review report to the adjuster as well if they hadn't already pulled one. But where does the math go? Well, that goes back to how many shingles per bundle, how much it's going to cover. And then I've saved my note with these little X's so that I can put in the particular numbers from the calculator. And this will explain to the adjuster the original estimate allowed for X amount of waste. So if I'm going to use my calculator here, it's only allowed for the 15% for field and the ridge and starter. Once the ridge and starter are removed from that, there's only 6 squares, 6.8 we can say, squares left. This is equal to 6% waste. This roof will require a minimum waste factor of 15, plus we need the ridge and starter. So I put all that math in here. I'm not going to make you watch me type all of it out, but this is really the crux of the issue that we're trying to get to. You've reduced us down to 6% waste. We agreed that we need 15. To get there, we're going to need to go ahead and add our ridge and starter. And that's what I've done here on this estimate. And I'll just add that little note there. And it's a beautiful thing. So it really has helped us here at Estimate Mastery with our members get a lot of that ridge and starter added to the adjuster's estimate. And some of you might be thinking, well, yeah, but there's, the adjuster can just say no. And that's true. He can just say no. But what I would recommend, and this isn't a silver bullet, but one thing that takes us a step further, provide this math to them and then go ahead after the install, provide them with what materials were actually ordered for this job, because that is then the cost that is incurred. I would encourage you not to maybe use that language. That's kind of policy and, running into unlicensed practice of public adjusting, but just so that you understand the concept, when the cost is incurred is when they actually owe for what material and labor was used to bring this roof back to the condition before the loss. So we should provide the facts. One of them is the math that we've done here. And then also what actual materials were dropped onto that job. That will help also in getting this added to your estimate, because then the cost is then incurred. So I wouldn't provide them with anything that has pricing or reveals any of that, but some kind of drop shipment receipt or something that your supplier should be able to get you. If they're really being a stickler and won't add the ridge and starter, then I would highly recommend that you just provide them with proof of what was dropped at that job. And that usually is the icing on the cake to get things paid. Again, not a silver bullet, but it does seem to help with this whole conversation. If you have any questions or comments about this, be sure to comment down below. And of course, consider subscribing to our channel if you like this video, because I release videos like this every Tuesday. And then of course, if you want to hit the like button, that helps us out here at Estimate Mastery as well. So my name is Alina Wilson with Estimate Mastery. Hope you have a great week in your business, and we'll see you next week.